Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you've liked the content I've shown you so far and thank you so much for the support. In my previous video, I had spoken about refinement. Today, we go to the next step, that is planning. Sprint planning. What is our agenda for this video? Our agenda is going to be what is sprint planning, what are the roles in this meeting, and in my experience, what are the most common mistakes I have noticed teams make. Sprint planning is an event in the Scrum framework where the team determines which items from the product backlog they will work on for the duration of that particular sprint. First question I would like to answer, what is a sprint here? A sprint is a duration which varies from 1 to 4 weeks, in which a team takes in X amount of tasks that they commit to complete in that duration of 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks. I will be working with the example of 2-week sprints. First thing in a sprint planning is establishing a sprint goal. Now, the sprint goal is typically decided by the product owner, and this is nothing but a goal that the team focuses on achieving in this duration of 2 weeks. To go back to the examples I was quoting in my previous video, this video series is my product. And my sprint goal for this next 2 weeks is to record and publish the sprint planning video. That is my sprint goal that was set by my product owner. And I have made a commitment to work on it. Now, we also look in the sprint planning at a team's velocity. Now, what is a velocity? It is nothing but the capacity of the entire team in terms of how many tasks can they complete in this 2-week sprint, right? And this velocity is determined by story points. So if your team velocity is for a team of 4 people, for 2 weeks, they are able to achieve 60 story points. If they are a mid-range experienced team. A new team with completely new members might take a story points much lesser. They might just look at achieving 30 or 40 story points. So let me first give an explanation of what story points are and what is the process of getting these story points. That is the estimation of tickets. I will explain this by giving you a live example. So right now, I've reset it and I have also requested my husband to participate and help. So he will also join this team, as you see. Because right now we are remote, most of you will be using various online tools to do this estimation. But typically what you would do when you're in office is you'll sit together and you'll have something called poker cards, which have these numbers. There are different ways of estimations: mountain goat, Fibonacci, sequel, playing cards. You have t-shirt size, Most common, most popular is the Fibonacci pack. Now, what is this? This is just a series of numbers which we relate to the complexity of these tickets. Now, for example, the task for me right now that we're going to estimate is recording the sprint planning video. So I will place my estimation and so will my product owner. Typically, please note, POs do not estimate. I'm just using him as an example. Now, here we have discussed that, okay, he says, yeah, it's very difficult to record a video. I'm thinking, yeah, it's not that difficult because if I have my research, if I have my content, I've prepared everything, then it's just a matter of speaking. But for him, maybe because he's not a public speaker, he might say, oh no, this is very difficult. Same way in your team, you would figure out. So then you would discuss with your team members saying, okay, this, etc. And then because the numbers are varying that much, as a Scrum Master, you will reset the clock and then say, okay, based on what we discussed, each one might or might not change their estimation. It is not compulsory that you change it. But okay, now we will change and we both will estimate again. And we say, okay, yeah, cool. Now we agree. Let's just say, okay, this is a 3 complexity task. Because for him, he's like, okay, anyways, I don't have to do it. If you're saying it's that easy, okay, then you agree. Please note here, I want to again emphasize, it is not compulsory that you have to change your estimation. The goal towards this is because you have senior, junior, and different members in your team from different walks. You want to come to a common understanding, and that is what this tool helps you. That is all. And that is how you estimate, and that is how you get story points for each task, which then when you do your team velocity, which trust me, you will not get right the first time. Nor will you get your estimation right, nor will you get your velocity right the first time you do it. It's all a ballpark. You try. So you will say, okay, our team velocity that both of us can do together is 30 story points. And that then becomes the first range in my team velocity. And the only way to get this right is if you do 1 month, 2 week sprints. I'm using 2 weeks as an example, for a course of 2-3 months, when you finally get an understanding of each one's individual capacity in the team, and then your numbers also start matching, and then you can easily say, hey, as a team, on an average, we can churn out a minimum of X story points. Now, this is a tip that I have seen help a lot, is assigning tasks in the planning meeting itself. I know a lot of people do not like to do this because honestly, for reasons, I mean, it varies from each team. Some of them do not like to assign things right at the beginning. They prefer, hey, let's go with the flow. As and when we get done, we'll just pick up something from the backlog, sprint backlog. So what I have noticed help is when you assign the tickets in this planning meeting, each and every member of your team knows what they have to do in the next 2 weeks. Thus, they can plan their own work better. They will then know, okay, I have to do 3 tickets. This one is very time consuming, but I don't need to work on it all day. Like, I have to run something. So you do a test, you run the code, that can be in progress. But while that is happening, you're not wasting your time. You can do another ticket in parallel. And that helps you plan your work better. You can choose, okay, I have 3 tasks. This is very simple. Let me just finish this first. Because you know what is left on your bucket. It's not a compulsory thing. I have noticed it helps, and it would be nice. And y'all can try it if y'all want. And the last one is looking at teams' availability and capacity within sprint planning. As a PO, we always look at when you are taking your tickets into account, you do check that, hey, are all your team members in office? Nobody's on vacation, nobody's working half day, nobody's going for any trainings, etc. So that you know how much time do you have from your engineers in that 5 days? Sorry, 10 days. Now, so how are the processes divided in the sprint planning? Sorry about that. The sprint product owner decides what is my sprint goal. This is something I mentioned. In the sprint planning process, he just decides which part of the product backlog needs to be achieved within this next 2 weeks. But he does not decide how much of the work. That lies with the dev team. The dev team decides how much work they can take for those 2 weeks to achieve that sprint goal. If our team goal, our sprint goal is this video, that is what my PO has said. Okay, your sprint goal is to record and publish the sprint planning video. But I would be deciding if, first of all, I can achieve that sprint goal in 2 weeks. Maybe not, maybe, Monday to Friday, I have my work, I have a jam-packed day at work. I cannot publish this video this weekend. So then we discuss in this planning meeting and say, okay, I can do part of the sprint goal, that is do my research, prepare my slides, and do a trial run. But I will only record the video next sprint because this week I am jam-packed with work. So it is I who decides how much work I can do. Same way, it is the dev team who decides how much work they can do, not the product owner, not the scrum master. not even your team lead or something. It's a collective decision by every single developer in that team. What does a scrum master do? The scrum master helps with facilitating the estimations, like I showed you in my previous, in the previous slide, opening the tool, asking everybody to estimate if there are difference in the numbers, having each one talk about why they think this task is that easy or that complex, and also to ensure that nobody in the team is put under the pressure. Sometimes this could happen two ways, right? Pressure could come from the product owner to say, hey guys, no, we have to do this week. It's okay if we squeeze in a little extra work. The Scrum Master will ensure that that does not happen. At the same time, if you're a dev team with 3 senior engineers and maybe 1 or 2 junior engineers, they might just feel that, the seniors might say, yeah, you can do this. It's not very difficult. You can take on more than 1, 2, 3 tasks. The junior might feel a little awkward as to, how do I go against my seniors? That's when a scrum master steps in and says, hey guys, that is his capacity. You cannot push him to do more or her to do more work. Now that we've clarified these 3 roles, let us go into what are the most common mistakes that people make during this meeting. The first, and this is something I've noticed a lot of people do, is the product owner decides how many tasks we take within the sprint. Now, the way this meeting is structured is the product owner looks at a sprint goal, and to achieve that sprint goal, he picks 10 tasks, saying, okay, task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 need to be done for us to achieve this sprint goal. And even though we do estimations, even though we decide everything, by default, the team takes in all 10 tasks. That is wrong. It is the dev team who decides if we can take those 10 or if we can only do 3, 4, 7, etc. That call should only be taken by the dev team, not by the product owner. Estimation and ticket count are decided by 1 or 2 people in the team. Very similar to the previous point, but here it goes on to, for example, the senior members of the team. Or if in your planning meet, one point of caution here, typically do not have your planning meeting if all your team members are not available on that particular day. I know these meetings are time boxed. Typically everybody has to make sure that they are available on this particular day. But for example, if you're a team of 5 people, and if 2 of your engineers are on vacation, or on holiday on that particular day, it makes sense to either prepone or postpone the planning meeting by a day to have as many people as part of this meeting. Now, coming back to this point, sometimes what I also notice happen is the team leads or the senior members in the team are the decision makers saying, yeah, okay, we can do 7 of these tasks for this sprint goal. But they forget, or they don't, it's not intentional, but they do not ask the juniors what they think of. And even they estimate the tickets as per their working capacity. As a senior, of course, you can handle tasks, much more complex tasks in much shorter of a time duration, but that is not true for your juniors, which is why we have this estimation process. So never estimate this ticket with just 1 or 2 people in the team. Make sure everybody in your team is included in that decision making, and everybody has a say of how many tickets we need to take and what is the story points of each ticket. The next one is the team gets into technical discussions within the planning meeting. Now, there are 2 folds to this. On one side, as mentioned, your refinement should be the place where all technical discussions happen. But there are cases in which technical discussions do happen in the planning meeting, and it is okay, but only to an extent. And this would arise only in cases where your estimations are, really far apart. Like somebody in your team gives it 2 or 3, whereas another person says it's 8 or 13, which is, 2 really far off estimation. That's when you need to get into a slight technical discussion to make the other person understand and come to a common ground. But this should be time boxed, and this should not happen for every single ticket. This is a very exception case where technical discussions happen. The next one is the team's availability is not taken into account. Sometimes what happens in teams that already have their velocity set, and your team velocity after a course of 2-3 months has been 60. What is the mistake is, even if you'll end up taking 60 story point tickets in this sprint when 2 of your engineers are on vacation. That is wrong, because you don't have that capacity to churn out that 60 story points, right? So you always need to take in account if people are available, are they on vacation, are they on half day, are they on some training, and according to that you need to adjust your uh, capacity of story points that you take. Now this is also sometimes it depends on the team, but I have noticed this happen a lot as well, is we take non-defined tasks into the sprint because priorities change. As a product owner, if your priority has changed even one day before the planning, have a refinement before your planning session, or divide the planning into two, have a refinement, refine the ticket, only then plan for it. If you are aware of the change of priority before the sprint planning meeting. There are exceptions. If you have bugs, if there are problems, of course you cannot sit to refine those tickets. Those will then just be taken into the sprint, and then you refine those tickets on the fly. But do not take in tickets where you're developing a new feature or you're doing something really major without refining it with the entire team. And this is something I think it falls more on the responsibility of the product owner, but it also falls on the responsibility of the devs, where you do not, if there is a pressure from a PO to take this task, you all insist on a refinement meeting saying, okay, we will do it, but we need to sit together and refine it. Please, this is something that is a shared responsibility. And the last one is things like reviews and testing are not taken into consideration while doing your sprint goal and sprint capacity. What most people do is if we have 10 days in our sprint, that's 2 weeks, you take in enough work that keeps your engineer engaged from the first Monday of the sprint beginning till the Friday where your sprint ends. Don't do that, because you need to know that your engineers need to take out time for giving reviews for peer-to-peer code reviews, or they need some time to test the task or the product that they have built. You need testing time, and that of course requires maybe a day or two in total, if you count all the hours together. So please do not plan for tasks that will keep you busy from the start to the end. It's okay if an engineer has a slight downtime, and I mean slight, I just mean by maximum of 1 day, because you can always fill those things with tasks like documentation. You can say, okay, if you're done with your development task, please document what you did. And that is something I mentioned in my very first video is very, very important. And I know engineers don't like it that much, but it's okay. You could use that 1 day downtime to do documentation. But please do not plan so much that your engineers have no time for code reviews, because then you'll never achieve a sprint goal. Because when you are going to close the ticket, you'll still have tasks in the code review column or in the testing column, simply because they did not have time to move it to done. And with that, I would like to thank you guys so much for listening to me. I request you to please add your comments and questions in the comment section below. And I look forward to your feedback, and it will help me plan my next videos better. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the content on my channel, please do like, share, and subscribe. Ta-da!